Okay, I wanted to jump in really quick because on this last episode, sorry, my voice is still a bit of a disaster. Um, there were so many really thoughtful questions and comments, and rather than try to go and type in stuff, I just wanted to like jump in and just kind of answer them and just be able to talk through them. It's easier for me, and it might make this all a little more conversational. I thought that would be fun. So this isn't like an official episode. It's just I just wanted to respond to some of this stuff. I really appreciate all of the feedback that you folks are giving me. Some of this is actually really helpful for me. I'm very pleased to know that I've, people watching this that are very knowledgeable and are offering some really incredible information. So I'm going to answer some questions and thank you for the information that you're sharing. So here we go. I kind of went through and selected the ones that are either questions or comments that make sense to respond to. I'm going to go back to the beginning of kind of go in order here. So there's one: would infrared heating panels not be an option for heating? And I'd not heard of those before. I looked them up. And it turns out that we're using something very similar. They're not specifically infrared, but it's a similar type of configuration. It's radiant type heat that's mounted. It has this very flat profile, so it just kind of like, barely comes off the wall. Doesn't take up any space in the room. They're really a cool way to do it. The ones that we're using are these convection style. So I think there's just a more conventional electric heating coil inside them, and the air just gets cycled through via convection. So it's not specifically infrared, but it looks very similar to the configuration of an infrared type heater. And the reason we're doing that is because through the rest of the building, the big room where is the only space where there's this ducted air conditioning heating system. The whole rest of the building is all mini split heat pumps. And the problem there is that occasionally in Vermont, the temperature will go to minus 20 degrees, like it did just maybe a couple weeks ago. A week ago? I don't know. Yeah. For a couple of days, at night, it went under 20, minus 20, and so I needed some heat in the building that was not a heat exchanger, a heat pump type thing. And so, we install these more conventional radiant heaters throughout the building that are set very low, so they really won't kick in because they're not as efficient as the heat pumps. They'd only kick in an instance when they're set at like 50 degrees for the thermostat. If the temperature actually goes below, gets down around minus 20, then they'll kick on to make sure that the pipes don't freeze. So that was a reason for putting those in there. To answer the question about infrared panels in that big room, those could possibly work, and that could be a good solution there. The only thing I'm not sure about, and really the challenge with that room, is it's such a big space, is really trying to get the heat where people are gonna actually feel it. And radiant heaters that are just mounted on the walls, the heat is generally, it's such a tall ceiling, it's gonna kind of just go straight up before it gets out in the center of the room, unless you're closer to the walls. It's possible that, you really wouldn't feel it before it, goes straight up. And so at least with a ducted system with forced air, it's gonna be blowing it into the center of the room, and hopefully that'll make it so people will get a chance to feel it before it then goes straight up to the roof. And we'll see. There's another comment later on that's sort of confirming my suspicions that I'm probably going to have to add fans to this place to really make it work. Okay, so there's that one. This was one just saying it would be amazing to hear about some songwriting techniques. That's a great idea for an episode. And my plan, once this place is done, amongst other things, one of my main goals is to finally really focus on spending some time recording my own music. So I'm going to be spending more time finishing writing some songs. I have a bunch of ideas that are all kind of, not totally done. So my head will definitely be in that space, and I would love to dive into that and talk about it. There's another comment here. Geothermal or heat pumps are other ways to heat and cool. I just mentioned the heat pumps. We did look into geothermal, and geothermal is somewhat dependent on, its geographic availability in your area. You have to find a source for it. And there are places in Vermont that do that. There's actually another studio. It was, believe it or not, vastly more extravagant of a build than what I'm doing. What I'm doing seems wildly extravagant, but this was on a whole other level. And they did geothermal heat in that place. And I was super excited about it when I looked into it. It was crazy expensive. And so even just the process of trying to find it on your property, find a source for it on your property. I don't know exactly what the process is, but I'm guessing there's all kinds of geological surveys and drilling and trying to see if there's places where it's available to tap into. Any chance you could use some windmills on your property to offset electricity cost? I've been looking into this. I'm very excited about the possibility of adding windmills or turbines to generate electricity, because the pattern that I've recognized, at least on our specific property, is that obviously you get sun during the day, particularly in the summertime. There's long days, and so you generate a lot of electricity in the summertime. And then that goes away at night. Obviously, there's no sunlight, can't generate any electricity. But in this property, there's like this big, long meadow. It used to be a grazing meadow for cattle that they had on this property a while back. And these sort of mountains on either side. And it just funnels the wind down this meadow towards our house. And it gets crazy windy in this place. I call it like haunted house wind. There's so many times at night when we're trying to sleep and you hear this like whoosh, this whistling wind, just blowing past the house. It sounds just like a haunted house. And so I think there's definitely some value there. I think there's enough wind to make it worthwhile. And then you'd be generating electricity when the sun's down. So, great suggestion. It's something that I definitely want to try and do. I actually inquired to the solar company that did the solar installation if there was any wind companies, and there were none. They said, we don't do it, and we don't know anybody that does it. So I just got to keep looking into it, and I'll find somebody. Okay, so next question. Curious about the ductwork being the same for the main room and the booths. Is it not that big of a deal to have the bleed between the rooms, or is there something you do later to dampen the noise between them? Just wondering, because when I finally get around building placement, if you're going to keep ductwork. Okay, it's a really good question, and your instincts are absolutely right. It definitely creates a pathway for sound to get, to pass between those spaces. And I may not be the best measure on this particular issue. I have, worked my whole life in these kind of, thrown together studios that I built myself, where I just kind of applied as much patience and resources that I had to get it as good as I wanted. And so I've worked with limited amounts of isolation between rooms for a very long time, and it just doesn't really bother me. For example, the little drum booth that was just to the left of the control room at Barefoot Recording originally had 2 doors on it to try and increase the isolation. It just got annoying having to open 2 doors, so I took one of them off. It just bothered me. The isolation between those rooms was not good at all. I recorded drums in there all the time, and I just ignored it. It didn't bother me. So your point is well taken, and I am probably giving up a little bit of that, so I don't have to run an isolated duct all the way down to that room. And there's another comment coming up here that I'm definitely going to look into that I think will help with this. And so I'm going to do my best to actually soundproof the ducts themselves to minimize it. And I'll mention it when the comment comes up. you'll have to install fans to circulate that heat. So there's the comment I just mentioned, and confirming my suspicions that I'm probably gonna have to do that. Sounds like this person definitely has experience with it, and yeah, I think that's probably gonna happen. Okay, so this person is saying here in Vietnam and the rest of the region, each room has electric air conditioning heat units, and so I'm guessing that they're talking about mini split type heat pumps. And so, as I just mentioned, those are being used throughout the rest of the place. They didn't make sense in the big room, again, for this issue of getting the hot or cold air in the place where you need it so you'll get the most benefit from it. And we really did discuss the possibility when I was, working with the company that installed and helped design the system. We discussed the possibility, why don't we just put in a bunch of mini splits? They work great, they're super efficient, let's just do that. The problem there was that you can't change where the heat or cold air comes out of. And that was the benefit of doing a ducted system with these motorized dampers. And so, as I described, when it's heat, it comes out of the floor. When it's air conditioning, it comes out down from the ceiling. So there wasn't really a way to do that with mini splits in the big room. So that's why I went ducted. Okay, so here's a couple more questions. How will you insulate the high ceiling and furnish it? Well, it's not, you can't really see it because it's done on the exterior of the ceiling. I had to replace the entire roof of this building. It really, it actually originally had a corrugated metal roof, and not my favorite, as I mentioned, and with no insulation. And so the whole thing had to be redone, and the decision was made to insulate on the outside so we could actually preserve the inside and not have to cover up the ceiling. And, in that video clip, you hear Grace sort of revisiting this issue of just sort of the look of the ceiling, because it really wasn't built or designed to be an aesthetically pleasing thing. It's all just framing construction up there. And, but all the same, I wanted to maintain, just like the wood surface. I think wood can sound pleasing in an acoustic space. It softens the high end just a little bit, I think more so than like painted sheetrock or something. And so there's a ton of insulation. The new roof is all standing seam. It has 2 layers of 4-inch polyiso foam on the outside. So it's an R value of somewhere around 45 or something like that. So the roof is very well insulated. You just can't see it. It's on the exterior. And then there's a comment about, will the AC heat system have a heat recovery system? This person is actually, commenting from Finland, where I think they probably have a lot of experience dealing with this stuff. And man, that is a really good comment. Nobody mentioned that along the way. And it really makes sense. The potential trade-off, and obviously, he comments here, it does only a percentage of the air, so you're not locking in the air to the interior of the building. That it's being mixed with fresh air, so you do still get some fresh air in the system. But yeah, I don't know that this system is actually doing that. There are returns, but I don't know that it's doing that, and it would make a huge difference if this system, and like I said recently, we had really low temperatures. It was minus 20 below zero. This is all Fahrenheit, by the way. And and the ducted system, the big ducted system in the big room, totally gave out. Once it went below zero, it could not generate heat anymore, and I had to just turn it off. It stopped working. The mini splits, I have to say, extremely impressive. It was like minus 17, minus 18, and they were still generating heat. I don't know how they do that with those heat exchangers. I guess there's still enough energy in those molecules to, squeeze some heat out of them. It's really impressive. And so, but yeah, if if the ducted system was actually just reheating the interior air, I think it would have a much better chance of being able to, maintain the heat instead of pulling it from the outside. So I'm guessing that this system is definitely not doing that, and it probably should be. So I really appreciate the comment. Thank you for that. I'm going to look into that. It's even, might make a difference. Fortunately, in the big room, all of the plumbing in that room is only on one wall. It's just on the north wall where there's a couple of bathrooms. The whole rest of the room has zero plumbing. And so if it does give out, and those bathrooms have, regular electric radiant heaters in them so they won't freeze. So there's no risk of, plumbing freezing or whatever if the when the ducted system craps out, can't keep up. But yeah, I'm gonna look into that. Okay. Next question was, what's the area where you and Grace were standing on for? Will it remain or open or get walled off? Good question. I forgot to really sort of, explain that. So that is like, we call it sort of the mezzanine level. And so it has two possible uses that I'm envisioning. And so, first of all, as it's being used as a recording studio, and it will remain open. There's obviously, they're going to put up a hand railing, make it safe to be up there, but it will remain open. And so you could put stuff up there when you're recording. You could put a drum kit up there, put amps up there or something, just put it in kind of a different area. It's also, that's an area that's going to have a door that opens up into the reverb chamber. And so if you wanted to have something, feed directly, just acoustically into the reverb chamber, you could put it up there. So there are mic tie lines and everything that you would need to record something up there. So there's that. And then we're calling it the Inspiration Lounge. And so on the north wall, so as you're facing out looking into the big room, the wall directly behind you is going to have shelves that will hold my vinyl collection. And I'm going to have a turntable in there and try and put in some nice speakers. I don't know, maybe if I'm not totally broke, maybe some more Strauss, maybe some smaller Strausses in there or something. And just have a really comfortable, inviting place to go and listen to music and reflect on what you're doing and try and, channel some inspiration. So it'll be like some, shag carpet and lava lamps and cool vibey lighting, that kind of stuff up there. And then if there's a live performance in the space, then that would be an additional area where people can go up and view from up above, have sort of a mezzanine viewing area for live performances. So that's the plan for that space. There's a question about ever been to Studio Morton Heights. I looked this up. Man, what a cool place, and so sad that it's gone now. I don't know if anybody else has seen it. It was originally called Les Studio, I believe. I think I'm remembering that right. But yeah, it looked amazing. It has an incredible pedigree of amazing stuff that was done there. Yeah, just sad that it just kind of seemed to have sort of disintegrated and got neglected and torn down. But yeah, very cool place. This is here. I am a small studio owner and a contractor doing sound attenuation for Zoom rooms and new homes. I use Acoustablock. It's a NASA space program spin-off company. Love that. It helps with quieting ductwork. So thank you so much for offering this. I looked at it quickly. It looks very similar to like a mass-loaded vinyl, which I used just recently. I was trying to make a limp mass absorber in my adventures, trying to deal with the low end in this control room and get it perfect. But this Acoustablock stuff looks like, they put a little more effort into really dialing it in. So I'm going to definitely check this out. And I think if the ductwork is a real problem, I may look into wrapping all of the ductwork with this stuff and see how much of a difference that could make. You have to make sure it's going to be able to hold up the weight and all that, because it's quite heavy. I was stunned. The mass limp absorbers that I built, I did the 2 pounds per square foot. It's a 1/4 inch thick, and it showed up and was like super heavy. I thought this was just going to be some sheets of vinyl. I was like, whoa, this is crazy heavy. But yeah, thank you for that that comment and that suggestion. I found the website. I'm totally going to look into it, and I think this could be an amazing resource for dealing with air conditioning noise. Okay, so then, okay, with the angled walls, make sure you pack behind them with rock wool, otherwise they will become giant resonant cavities. Yeah, totally. I agree. Fortunately, there is a good amount of rock wool, stuffed in there behind them. Should I hope I put enough in? It should be. It doesn't feel like they're going to be problematic. It would be a bummer if they were problematic, because I'd have to tear off the sheetrock to deal with it. Okay, there's actually one more thing that could be done to deal with that. Because those wedges ultimately I'm going to cover with wood paneling. And so underneath the wood paneling, I could probably use some of this Acousti-Block type stuff that would just dampen that stuff from. So I could potentially do that to reduce it as a, a plan B fix if there really being a problem. But thank you for that comment. Okay, and then I was trying to remember what the name of the studio was that Bill Putnam broke, where I saw those angled surfaces, and somebody clarifying it's United, which was the original name. I'm sure somebody told me that. I'm sure I knew that at one point. It just fell out of my brain. So thank you for clarifying that. Movable ceiling in one of the ISOs was a comment here. Might be usable. So a la a drumbrella type thing. That has been discussed. It could be a really, really cool thing to do in there. I want to hear them first. But yeah, I haven't made any plans. There's no drumbrella in this new space yet. And I just want to use the space first and see where it might be cool to do it or not. Maybe I don't need, I don't know. We'll see. I just got to have some actual real experience with the space first. But yes, movable ceiling in an ISO booth would be amazing, because when you do that with just in an open space with the drumbrella, and it's this sort of vaguely parabolic shape, so it really tries to focus the reflections down the right way to exaggerate the effect of it, because you're not moving the whole ceiling, you're just moving a small percentage of the ceiling. But in an isolation booth like that, you really could move the whole ceiling. It wouldn't have to be parabolic. And I am guessing that the results would be dramatic. It would make a huge difference, because you're moving the whole ceiling, just completely changing the volume of the room. And so yeah, that's a couple people have mentioned that along the way. It's definitely being considered, but yeah, thank you for mentioning that. It's a really cool idea. And then the last one here, where is episode 4? I'm dying. Okay. I gotta find the Pro Tools session. I have the actual video files. They were on my phone. Obviously I just recorded on my phone. So I know I did it. It wasn't like something I dreamt. But I have to find the Pro Tools session to really actually be able to enjoy the benefits of it. I'm not going to give it away yet, because I think it's going to be one of those episodes. It has all of the characteristics of an episode that I think people are going to really, really enjoy. So I know I have the Pro Tools session somewhere, and I need to do a little bit of work just to finish it off so it can all be in the right context. But it is actually the last thing. Well, is this true? It's not actually true. I went back there. It was the second to last thing I ever recorded in the Barefoot building. I went back there and did, brought a remote setup and recorded some stuff after that for another project. But yeah, it was, my last chance to try and capture this particular thing. So I did it. I'll find it and we'll put it in there. All right. So thank you again for all these amazing comments and questions. So thoughtful, really helpful stuff. And helping me along in this process. It's one of the incredible things about doing this, having a dialogue with people out there that have a whole other world of experience and knowledge and that they can share with me, and and that I can benefit from. So I really appreciate it, and and I will continue to try and share whatever I have to offer. So thanks a bunch, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, bye.